Are you putting the Radhavalo, are you doing the YouTube?
Yeah, I'm setting up YouTube right now.
It says that it's streaming live on YouTube.
Yeah.
Let's put it on YouTube.
Can I share my screen?
Yes, you. I'm not so sure if you can, but let me check. I have to make you the
co-host.
I can't make you a co-host. I don't have that account. Let me. I'll make you the host, and then you're gonna have to go ahead and put me in as the host afterwards.
Thank you. Just to share the verse.
Okay.
38.
All right, just a minute. 1 minute. So more. Allow to record. Make host. Spotlight for everyone. No. Where are you? Okay, that's you, right? Marcelo Sandy?
Oh, yeah, that's me. I forgot to
Okay,
change my name. I'm going to change my name now.
All right, okay. All right, so you're the host now?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay.
So whenever you are ready, just let me know. We can begin reading the text.
You can start, I think.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much for inviting me to give the class today. Today we are going to read from the IMO Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, text number 38. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay. Shrimbatam Swakata Krishna Punyan Shravada Kirtana Yatantasto Hyabhadrani Vidunoti Sukhritsatam Yagya Prayeshavadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloki Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So, Canto 1, Chapter 5, text number 38, it goes like this. Iti murtya vidhanena mantra murtim amurtikam yajate yagya purusham sasamyak darshana puman. Iti murtya vidhanena mantra murtim amurtikam yajate yagya purusham sayamyak darshana puman.
Yeah.
Translation, word by word. Iti, thus. Murti, representation. Abhidhanena, in sound. Mantramurtim, form representation of transcendental sound. Amurtikam, the Lord who has no material form. Yajate, worship. Yagya, Vishnu. Purusham, the personality of Godhead. Saha, he alone. Samyak, perfectly. Darshana, one who has seen. Puman, person. Translation. Thus he is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound representation, the supreme personality of Godhead Vishnu, who has no material form. Purport. Our present senses are all made of material elements, and therefore they are imperfect in realizing the transcendental form of Lord.
Mathuresh Prabhu.
Yes.
Just remember, if anyone wants to come in, you'll have to admit them now. Okay.
Okay. I'll see that. Thank you.
Okay, good.
He is therefore worshipped by sound representation via the transcendental method of chanting. Anything which is beyond the scope of experience by our imperfect senses can be realized fully by the sound representation. A person transmitting sound from a far distant place can be factually experienced. If this is materially possible, why not spiritually? This experience is not a vague impersonal experience. It's actually an experience of the transcendental personality of Godhead, who possesses the pure form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. In the Amarakosha Sanskrit dictionary, the word murti carries import in twofold meanings. Must be importance. The word murti carries importance in twofold meanings, namely form and difficulty. Therefore, Amurtikam is explained by Acharya Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur as meaning without difficulty. The transcendental form of eternal bliss and knowledge can be experienced by our original spiritual senses, which can be revived by chanting of the holy mantras or transcendental sound representations. Such sound should be received from the transparent agency of the bona fide spiritual master, and the chanting may be practiced by the direction of the spiritual master. That will gradually lead us nearer to the Lord. This method of worship is recommended in the Pancharatrika system, which is both recognized and authorized. The Pancharatrika system has the most authorized codes for transcendental devotional service. Without the help of such codes, one cannot approach the Lord, certainly not by dry philosophical speculation. The Pancharatrika system is both practical and suitable for this age of quarrel. The Pancharatra is more important than the Vedanta for this modern.
Okay, Haribo,
Yes.
Premanandi, Haribo Sefali and Premanandi, we are in Zoom. We are not in this system. You gotta read. You guys gotta read. Just click the, we are there in Zoom. Please enter in Zoom.
Okay, after that announcement by Jailbaj Prabhu, we're gonna carry on. We're gonna read again the verse. Iti murtya vidhanena mantramurtim muktikam yajate yagya purusham sasamyak darshana puman. Thus, he is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound representation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, who has no material form. Okay. So I stopped sharing my screen, and I'm gonna give the privilege of being the host to Radhavallabha Prabhu. Okay, Radhavallabha Prabhu, you are the host again. Thank you very much. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
You give it to someone else, Smudge Mudar. So
Really?
yeah. So you have to point and do it again. Well, now he has to do it. I don't know. He
Let me see.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes. So who is Smaj Mudar?
These are devotees that they're coming from the problem is that they don't read all the posting and they just went to the regular class that we do in the other system. So I have to go back there.
All right, but he has to change the host to me.
Smaj Mudar, Prabhu, whoever you are, you here?
Yes, Prabhu, that's me.
Okay.
This is Sefali Madani, Dr. Sefali.
Um,
All right, so open up the participants and then point to my name and then click more and then make me the host.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Now we are all set.
Okay, good. All right.
Sorry about that, Radhabalava Prabhu.
Okay. All right. So
Okay, so this was a very, very nice verse that speaks about the importance of sound vibration. How can a person understand and get to know Vishnu or Krishna through the sound vibration? But also, Srila Prabhupada is stressing in his purport and speaking about the Pancharatrika Vidhi system, which is very important for neophyte devotees like us, at least like me. Srila Prabhupada established the Pancharatrika system along with the Bhagavad Vidhi system so that we can practice our Krishna consciousness in a complete way. Some devotees may consider that in this age of Kali, the Pancharatrika system is not so relevant, and that is sufficient or is enough to simply focus in chanting the Lord's holy name. We all have heard that, you know. We very much stress in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra as the means of reaching self-realization, which is the truth. However, the Pancharatrika system that Srila Prabhupada established in his temples is the utmost importance. Some devotees might misunderstood this point and misunderstand the appropriate mood of temple worship that we have in our ISKCON temples. The mood of a deity worship in our temples can manifest in different ways. For example, we can see how the deities are being dressed by the pujaris, the mood of the worship, our interpretation or what is our relationship with the Lord in his murti form, the way devotees interact with the deities, which is very special and individual, or how strictly we follow the worship process and the rules and regulations that there are for the process of deity worship. That's how we see the different moods in the worship of the deities in our ISKCON temples. However, Srila Prabhupada clearly explained in his books and in his many lectures, his purports also, that for this age of Kali Yuga, that without the help of the codes, like in his purport in this verse, without the codes of the Pancharatra or the Pancharatrika Vidhi, the Pancharatrika system, one cannot approach the Lord. Why? Because by following this Pancharatrika system, we are becoming purified. It's a purificatory process, which is suitable for this age, for these times. In this way, Srila Prabhupada gave us both deity worship, or Archana, or a Pancharatrika system, and the Bhagavad Vidhi, which is basically hearing and chanting. Both have to be there in the practice of devotional service. In the Bhagavad Gita also, it's explained that even though we are followers of the Bhagavat Marga, the Bhagavad Vidhi, still we engage in our devotional practice, in our devotional service, according to the rules of the Pancharatrika Vidhi. Those are the rules we follow. Those are the rules we follow to become purified. We are so much contaminated by being traveling in this material world for so many millions of lives, that we need some kind of practice, practical engagement to become purified. And that is the meaning of the codes of Pancharatra, the codes of deity worship. Sometimes in our devotional practice, we experience some glimpses of the Bhagavat Marga in our day-to-day practices, like in a nice kirtan, even eating nice prasadam, in the association with devotees, by reading Srila Prabhupada's books, by doing Harinam Sankirtan. We experience glimpses of this Bhagavat Vidhi because it's there. It's the consequence of chanting the holy name. By chanting the holy name, we are elevated to the platform of the residents of Vrindavan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought this process in the mood of Radha Krishna to the world, his Sankirtan movement and the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That's why devotees, when we practice this Mahamantra chanting with sincerity, we can have glimpses of that mood of Vrindavan. However, in our practice of deity worship, which is also part of what Srila Prabhupada gave us as a purificatory process and as a way to relate to Krishna in a personal form, which is predominantly following the codes of Pancharatrika Vidhi, we also elevate ourselves gradually as much as we become purified by this practice and start getting these glimpses also of our relationship with Krishna. So generally, the worship of the Lord in temple is actually worshiping Lord Narayana and Lakshmi. That's the mood actually. Whereas the worship of Lord Krishna and Radha is the most confidential thing. So whenever we are worshiping the deities in the altar, it's an Lakshmi Narayan worship. That's the reverential mood. Until by the practice of the Bhagavat Vidhi, Shravanam Kirtanam, we come to the point of relating with Radha and Krishna. The worship of Lord Vishnu in the altar is more reverential mood, and the worship of Radha Krishna is more spontaneous mood. That's the difference between Pancharatrika Vidhi and Bhagavata Vidhi. But one cannot claim that only Bhagavat Vidhi, Bhagavat Dharma, Bhagavat Marg is the only path that we should take, neglecting the Pancharatrika codes. Both of them should be there. Actually, neophyte devotees worship the Lord according to all these codes of Pancharatrika Vidhi, regulative principles, etc. Radha Krishna cannot be approached by neophyte devotees because neophyte devotees, we are still contaminated. We need to somehow clean our heart and clean our consciousness to come to have a glimpse of what is actually the worship of Radha Krishna. So worship according to these codes is called Vidhi Marga, and worship according to the Bhagavat Vidhi principles is called Raga Marga, like Raganuga Bhakti. When one becomes completely purified by the practice of the process of devotional service according to the Pancharatrika system, one reaches the platform of Raganuga Bhakti, Bhagavat Vidhi. That's the result. So In that way, devotees can be elevated to the Vrindavan platform and relate to Radha Krishna and relate to Lord Chaitanya in a pure way. So we should accept both. Both of them are important. It's like a train. When a train is on the railroad, there are two lines. In that way, the train can travel safely. In the same way, in the Bhakti train, if we compare in that way, we have these two lines to travel safely, Pancharatrika and Bhagavat Vidis. If we travel in those two rails, then our devotional practice is guaranteed, as long as we follow nicely, of course. So that is actually the most important thing I saw in Srila Prabhupada's purport on the verse today. And it's very important to reflect and to remember that we cannot jump over the Pancharatrika codes and try to establish ourselves just in the Shravanam Kirtanam platform. Both are important. The risk of trying to jump over the Pancharatrika codes is that we could become sahajiyas, sentimentalists, think that we are already pure devotees or just chanting Hare Krishna is enough. Actually, it's enough in the beginning. That's why Srila Prabhupada, when he came to the West, what he first taught the young people that started following him is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. That itself is also a very purifying process. Actually, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the essence of our practice. However, given the situation, our situation in this material world, that we come with so many ideas and philosophies and interpretations and perspectives, we need a physical purificatory process, and that's a Pancharatrika system. That's why Srila Prabhupada, after he got some followers, after he taught him to do Harinam Sankirtan on the streets, chanting 1 hour every day before his lecture, after some time, he introduced the deity worship in his movement. And he did it in such a way, such a wonderful way, that we have the most beautiful altars that any religion can have in the world. You can just see any of our temples where the deity worship is being performed in a nice and serious way. It's amazing. It's breathtaking when you get in front of the deities in Mayapur or in any other temple which is worshiping the deities in a nice way. It's impressive. Nobody worships God in that way, with fresh flowers every day, bathing the Lord every day, changing clothes of the Lord every day, offering foodstuffs, offering different elements, following a schedule. I mean, I haven't seen in any religion that they worship God in that way. And that's how Srila Prabhupada taught us this important process of Pancharatrika, of Pancharatra, according to, of course, Narada Muni. Narada Muni is the one who presented this Narada Pancharatra in his book Narada Pancharatra. You can find all these principles. And that is what we are following in ISKCON under the direction of Srila Prabhupada. So how this Pancharatrika Vidhi and this Bhagavat Vidhi fit together, I explained that they are like two lines on the same, for the same train, the Bhakti train. Yeah, they relate together because after we begin our Pancharatrika practice, we need to support it by the process of Bhagavat Piti, by the 9 processes of devotional service. The first 2 are the most important, Shravanam, Kirtanam. So by combining these 2, the deity worship, the following of rules and regulations, with the Shravanam, Kirtanam, hearing and chanting, then we grow. Then we grow very fast. Another important aspect is that in this age of Kali, it said that we're all Sudras. It's very important to understand that. The Skanda Purana declares, Kalo Shudra Sambhava. You all know this. That in the Kali Yuga, we are all Sudras. There's no Brahmanas in Kali Yuga. So we cannot find any qualified Brahmana in Kali Yuga. That's why the Pancharatrika system is very important to follow, because it said that that system is for Sudras. For Sudras, like all humans in this age of Kali. It's prescribed for Sudra class of men. It's like suitable for them in this age and time. And such a purificatory process is allowed only for spiritual upliftment and not for any other purpose. That's what Srila Prabhupada says. So one who practices in this way will not be able to deviate of the service of the Lord. And that very practice makes him perfect in the mission of human life. I remember when we had a big temple here in Bolivia back in the early 80s. All the initiated devotees had to go into the altar as part of their training. So as soon as you were initiated, then you were authorized to go into the altar and learn all these principles of deity worship. It was so nice. It was so nice. It felt like something new and something very relevant and important was happening in our spiritual lives. It was so real that the results were also real. As soon as young devotees, just initiated devotees, went into the altar and started learning all these principles of deity worship, their lives really took a new step up. And that is the result of practicing these principles under the direction of the spiritual master. That's what Srila Prabhupada gave us. And that shouldn't be neglected at any time. If we neglect all these principles that Srila Prabhupada gave us, such as this Pancharatrika system, then the result will be different. The result that we are looking for will be different, because one very important ingredient will be lacking in the practice of devotional service. The other day I was reflecting on the recipe of halava. The recipe of a perfect halava has exactly specific ingredients. And when you put all of them and you cook them in the right way, at the right time, then the result is the most delicious halava. But if you lack some of the ingredients, or you want to replace this ingredient with another ingredient, if you leave more time toasting the semolina, or put more sugar or less sugar or whatever, the result is different. You won't get the result. And we shouldn't let that happen in our ISKCON movement with Srila Prabhupada's instructions. He gave us this system for a reason. And not because he invented it. I mean, it's in the scriptures. The Narada Pancharatra is clearly. And also in his Bhakti Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami gives us the following explanation. on how this Pancharatrika system and Bhagavata system fit together. Here it says, let me see. Okay, here it is. Srila Jiva Goswami says, it is Srimad Bhagavatam's opinion that the process of deity worship is not actually necessary, just as the specific prescriptions of the Pancharatra and other scriptures do not have to be followed. The Bhagavatam enjoins that even without practicing deity worship, one can achieve the complete success of human life by any of the other devotional processes, such as simply offering oneself at the Lord's feet for his protection. Nonetheless, Vaishnavas following the path of Sri Narada and his successors, like Srila Prabhupada, endeavor to establish a personal relationship with the Lord by receiving the grace of a bona fide spiritual master through initiation. And in this tradition, the devotees are obliged at the time of initiation to begin engaging in deity worship. Although deity worship is not essential, the material conditioning of most candidates for devotional service requires that they engage in this activity. When we consider their bodily and mental conditions, we find that the character of such candidates is impure and their minds are agitated. Therefore, to rectify this material conditioning, the great sage Narada and others have at different times recommended various kinds of regulations for deity worship. So that's in the Bhakti Sandarbha. That's what Srila Prabhupada brings to us, because he is a bona fide spiritual master and he abides by the scriptures. That's his merciful, his merciful attitude towards his disciples, and he teaches us the secrets of devotional service. And one of these secrets is this, that due to our contaminated situation in this Kali Yuga, we need to engage in deity worship also. So that's very important. I think that is the main topic of this verse, to remember these systems, both of them, Pancharatrika and Bhagavat Vidhi, to reflect that how our practice is being done in this regard. If we are associated with our deities at home or at the temple, in which way, if we are getting the benefit of this discipline of worshiping the deities, along with our Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing, chanting, like this Bhagavatam class, for example. It is like hearing and chanting, but parallel to this, we need to engage in these Pancharatrika codes and principles. So the Mahamantra Hare Krishna, as I said, it's itself very powerful, but it needs to be complemented. Sometimes we see that devotees only stress in the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra because they are musicians, they sing in a very nice melodies, attract lots of people. Actually, the chanting of the Mahamantra nowadays in ISKCON is attracting very, very many people, especially young people who like music. It's like I said, like the scripture said, in Kali Yuga, there's only Sudras. And in the category of Shudras, there are the musicians, the artisans, the workers, like that. So that's why they get attracted so much by the sound of the music. That's the first attraction. But after they kind of get connected with the devotees through this musical hook of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is in itself so attractive, so potent, then the next step is to engage them in following these codes of Pancharatrika, teaching them some discipline on deity worship. Of course, this is in a person-to-person base. Some people are attracted to deity worship. Some others are scared about it, deity worship. Some people really get frightened to see these statues in the temples, like idols or whatever they think. But it's very important. It's part of the process of devotional service, and it's part of our ISKCON way to teach devotional service. It's all actually the Gaudiya way to teach this. Jiva Goswami is recommended this in the Bhakti Sandarbha, like that. So I think I'm going to stop here. I would like to hear from you now, if you have anything to add to what I said, or if you have any questions, Damodar Maharaj can answer them. Thank you very much.
Did I just unmute myself?
Yes, we can hear you, Maharaj.
Oh, okay, well, thank you for giving me this, how should you say, special protocol that somehow I can speak first. I have two questions. One is, how can we understand your mention that Pancharatrika system is for Sudras? How can Sudras worship on the altar? Also, I mean, just parenthetically, I would assume that when you talked about initiation, you're referring to what in ISKCON is second initiation, like you mentioned in history in Bolivia in the 1980s, that when devotees got initiated, they immediately did deity service. So it must have been second initiation. Another question I have is that, well, it's just a comment that you mentioned how important it is to, in addition to Bhagavat Marg, also Pancharatrika Vidhi, that like the two parallel rails of the train, Prabhupada said like that, he called it the Bhakti Express or something like that. But perhaps the most essential purpose of Pancharatrika Vidhi is that by that purification, it helps us to improve our chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So we needed a support. This was mentioned, I think, by Mahanidhi Swami or maybe by Satchidananda Swami in one of their books of Gayatri Mantra, that the Pancharatrika Vidhi, including the Gayatri Mantra, serves, it's not like separate in this, because it's a crossover there to helping us improve our chanting Harinam. So anyway, those are one question. My first question is about how you mentioned Sudras, that the Panchaka system is for Sudras. I didn't quite catch that.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. My obeisances. Well, what I said is that the Pancharatrika system acts on the Shudra class of men, and it's prescribed as the purificatory process suitable to this age of Kali Yuga, where everybody is considered a Shudra. So that's what I said, and that's what I read from Srila Prabhupada, who said that. So because we are not qualified Brahmanas, we need to first qualify ourselves as Brahmanas to be able to worship the deity. And but these codes of the Pancharatrika Vidhi teaches that and qualifies us to become Brahmanas. When I said in Bolivia, we used to go to the altar as soon as we were initiated, that was the practice at that time. The initiated devotee, the first with first initiation, already was led to go into the altar to start assisting the pujaris, the Brahmana pujaris. And with the second initiation, then he could touch the deity. That was the system. Maybe it was not so bona fide. I mean, we were so young and everything was so new for us. But that's how we were applying these principles. And it was really blissful, very blissful to be able to have the right, as soon as you were initiated, to go into the altar and to have the right to touch the deity and do more intimate service for the deity when you got second initiation. So that's somehow, you know, the process we were applying at that time, which has to do with this Pancharatrika Vidhi system, and it worked. It worked very nicely. All of the devotees, as the time passed, were all-rounded devotees. We did all kinds of services, from going to distribute books, cooking, singing, worshiping the deities, learning mantras, memorizing verses, learning how to give classes. It was very nice, and it all made sense if we did it because we were doing this in a systematic way. That would be my answer, Maharaj.
All right, sounds quite reasonable.
Thank you. Any other comment or question?
Yeah, I have a question. I was just going through the Srimad Bhagavatam, that is on the, what is called, the 11th canto 247. It says, Acharya neva raje puja ja sarajayate. Nata bhaktesu charishu sabhakta pragitasmita. A devotee who faithfully engages in the worship of the deity in the temple but does not behave properly to where other devotees properly in the or people in general is called a prakrita bhakta, materialistic devotee, and it's considered to be in the lowest position.
Right.
So my question is, since it's in the lowest position to do that, to worship the deities, but to believe that God is in one place, it's nowhere else, it's here in the temple.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But it's not in the preaching. So mostly those people that worship the deity, they are neophytes in the sense that they are worshiping the deity, but they don't want to preach. They don't want to do anything. So this is more or less, is a Bhajananandi, or is in which category you will put them?
Well, thank you for your question and your comment. It's very important to understand that one of the characteristics of the Kanishta Adhikaris is exactly that what you have just mentioned, that they believe that Krishna is only in the temple. As soon as they get out of the temple, Krishna doesn't exist anymore. That's a Kanishta Adhikari, and that is a phase in our devotional practice. I mean, maybe many of us have gone through that phase, but as we develop and mature in our devotional practice, then we understand deeper things. Of course, we have to help those devotees through our association, education, example, that there's more to that there's much more to that. And that is exactly what this Pancharatrika Vidhi system teaches. You know, first, through this mechanical practice of worshiping the deity with all these mantras and upacharas and schedules and yantras and whatever, one starts becoming uncontaminated. One is becoming purified. And if you, parallel to that, are singing, hearing and chanting, then that process is very potent. If you complement that with your hearing and chanting, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then that process is very, 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 very potent. Don't forget that what I said in the beginning was that the worship of the deity in the altar is that we are worshiping Narayan, Lakshmi Narayan. It's in that level. It's a reverential mood. However, we are after the experience of Radha Krishna. That's what we are after. So by dint of the practice of the Shravanam Kirtanam process, then we get to that, to have those glimpses of, oh, actually, I'm trying to worship here Radha and Krishna in the altar. Even though Radha Krishna are there, the mood is Lakshmi Narayan, because we are still afraid of God, we are still reverential, we are following schedules, we are following all kinds of principles of cleanliness and all that. That's the platform of Lakshmi Narayan. But when you reach that Raga Marga, that Raganuga Bhakti platform, then the worship of Radha Krishna is in a different mood. It's more spontaneous. But we have to be very careful when we think that we are already there. If once we think, by whatever reason, we get to think that maybe I'm already in Raganuga Bhakti, I don't need to worship the deity anymore. And somehow you find that you still have envy in your heart, you still have material desires, you still have material attractions. Oh, then I was wrong. I am not there yet. I'm not yet in the Raganuga Bhakti platform. So I still need to go back and keep doing this discipline of worshiping the deity according to the Pancharatrika Vidhi. I mean, I see, for example, of this Maharaj that we love so much, a very, very important guru in ISKCON, Gopal Krishna Maharaj. Gopal Krishna Maharaj, being the guru and senior devotee that he is, he every day gets up and worships the deities in the temple. That's his sadhana. His sadhana. It's not that, oh no, I'm already past that platform. That's just for Kanishta Adhikaris, you know. No, he's still there, and that's a great example. That's what I can say. Any other question or comments?
I have this to say. Now, you read from that article on ISKCON Desire Tree, right? But you
Yes.
stopped at CC Madhya 15:108. But the next one says, Srila Prabhupada writes the following comment on Srila Jiva Goswami's quote. He says, in other words, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is so powerful that it does not depend on official initiation. But if one is initiated and engages in the Pancharatrika Vidhi, deity worship, his Krishna consciousness will awaken very soon, and his identification with the material world will be vanquished. The more one is freed from material identification, the more one can realize that the spirit soul is qualitatively as good as the Supreme Soul. At such time, when one is situated on the absolute platform, one can understand that the holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical. And
Right.
there's the other thing here. He says, as we can see, the Bhagavad Vidhi is the fifth step of the Pancharatrika system, or the Pancharatrika Puja. Bhaktivedanta Purna Swami explains that the Pancharatrika system is a perfect spiritual lifestyle meant to assist people in Kali Yuga to calm down their agitated minds and purify their consciousness. In this way, they're uplifted on the platform of Sattva Guna, from where a concentrated and substantial Nam Jap can be practiced. You know, so it's a little bit more on the same article that you read, but there's a little bit more on that.
Thank you, Prabhu, for complimenting that. Yes, I've read that part of the Bhakti Sandarbha from Jiva Goswami, its explanation. Yes, and you're right, there was more to it, and it's very nice that you completed that. Yeah, it's very clear. It's so clear. Both things are related together, and we should never forget that. And we should kind of pay attention to both sides until, as you have just read, the holy name and the deity form of the Lord are identical. Until we realize, until we understand that the holy name of the Lord, the name, and the Lord himself are identical, then we can say that we have made some advancement.
In that light, there was one devotee who wanted to have Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with him. He wanted to have the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But, Mahaprabhu was leaving for another place. And so he was going to stay there. So Mahaprabhu gave him the deity form. So he said, well, I don't want the deity. I want to be associated with you. So then Mahaprabhu transferred himself into the deity form, and the deity walked away, So then he understood that the deity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are one and the same. There is absolutely no difference.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was Gauridas Pandit, right?
Yes.
Gauridas Pandit. One
Very nice.
quick question I have. It's getting late, but one quick question I have is what you continued reading, Radha Ballava Prabhu. You mentioned that it's kind of works the other way also, that the chanting of Harinam, or at least Namabhas, I mean the attempt to chant the holy name, is actually also works as a preliminary like a preparation for deity worship itself. I thought I heard that it goes the other way as well.
Basically, what it says is that the chanting of the holy names is so powerful that it doesn't need anything else. It doesn't depend on official initiation. But then if one is initiated and engages in Pancharatrika Vidi, deity worship, his Krishna consciousness will soon awaken. So basically, Prabhupada is saying that. He's commenting on Srila Jiva Goswami's quote. And he's saying that nothing supersedes the chanting of the holy names. But all of these things make it easier. And then, what's his name? Bhakti Vidyapurna Swami says that it makes for the perfect lifestyle, a perfect type lifestyle meant to assist people. So the chanting of the holy names supersedes everything else. But, we get to the right lifestyle, the right attitude, then it makes it easier on that. So that's what I think is in there. I can send you the article.
Thank you.
Yeah, it acts like a training session. I'm thinking in terms of like a soccer team. If a soccer team doesn't prepare and follows discipline and concentrates and follow some diet and won't perform well, even though the players can play with the ball in a very fancy way. If they do not follow a discipline, then they will lose the game. In the same way, if we don't follow the Pancharatrika Vidi system, and we just rely on the chanting Hare Krishna, even though it's a very potent and by itself, it's the best means of self-realization, then we won't perform. We won't perform the way we could perform, and we have to perform. That would be a little analogy.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I was talking to a devotee the other day, and he was saying, no, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never established many temples. The only thing he did establish is the chanting. This is what we do, concentrate on the chanting. And giving a stress to his disciples and to followers in general, only to go to Jagannath temple and go to the temple, but not everywhere. He didn't establish a temple himself or very, elaborated worship. I say, well, can you comment?
Well, you get all these different visions and perspectives from devotees, sometimes because they don't want to follow, or they are not serious about following, or sometimes because they have some kind of idea that, it's not necessary. But we follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through Srila Prabhupada. We cannot follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu directly.
I
We
see.
would go crazy. We need a spiritual master. We need a guide. We need somebody who understands him. And Srila Prabhupada is the perfect person who can teach us the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he established a whole system for his movement, which even has variations from other Gaudiya groups. Even he was a revolutionary. He established many, many new things. Why? Because he's a bona fide spiritual master and we follow him. So if we cannot understand that basic principle, then there's no scope for making more advancement. One will get stuck there. There's no other way to understand Krishna's teaching, but through the teachings of the spiritual master. So that's how we should answer to those devotees who have these kind of comments. If we are faithful to the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, then we will be successful like he was successful. If we divert or we start making up our own little ideas, then as the halava recipe, if it doesn't have the perfect ingredients and the right amount, the result will be a different result.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Jayadvaj Prabhu. Nice to see you, dear Radhaballabha Prabhu. Damodar Maharaj, as usual, nice to hear from you and other devotees who are present today in the class. Thank you so much. Accept my humble obeisances, and I hope to see you in some other time.
Haribo, thank you for your time. It was a great class, to the point.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
The
Keep
class,
well.
the class is already recorded and it will be posted online.
All right.
Because many members, they cannot attend this class because they have to go to work early.
I know. What is the YouTube channel that you use?
I will send it to you. No problem.
Okay.
It's you just have to go to YouTube and type in IMO Bhagavatam Class, and it'll come right up.
All right. Thank you, Radhavallabha Prabhu.
Haribo.
Okay, keep safe, devotees. Thank you so much. Obeisances again. Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Hey, Haribol, thank you.
Hare Bol.
Haribo.